Thanks for watching Numbskull News. And today, let me see if I can get this story straight. The Pac-12 felt like it was being underpaid by Comcast for the Pac-12 network. So they do a little audit and discover that actually they're being overpaid by Comcast by in tune of about $5 million a year. So they do the dishonest thing and not say anything. Well, that's y'all's fucking problem. We already feel we're not making enough money anyway, so we'll just take more. And sure enough, Comcast comes along later on, does their own audit, realizes that they're overpaying by $5 million a year, and now the Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever, now owes $50 million. This, of course, is embarrassing as hell, especially when you're trying to get a TV contract worked out with Amazon and ESPN. And speaking of which, we still don't have a deal going on. It is now February of 2023. 5 months they've been working on this deal with Amazon and nothing. 6 months in total since they entered early negotiations trying to get a deal done with ESPN. That has fallen through. With all of that crap going on, what exactly is the Big 12 doing? Because they are, all we hear is crickets. It's quiet. And I don't know if you have kids or not, but I have 4. And I know when they were growing up, if it's quiet in the house, that's trouble. So I put on my speculation hat and said, okay, if I'm the Big 12, what am I doing? What little plans am I trying to hatch here? Because we know they want to expand. They want to expand into the Pac-12. What did Kevin Warren try doing? Well, Kevin Warren, we know they had talks with Amazon. He was wanting more of those West Coast schools, Oregon and Washington, plus whatever else. And he wanted to do a deal with Amazon to pay for that. As we all know, the Big Ten, the ADs, presidents, whatever, they basically shot that down. And then Kevin Warren went to the Bears. So it is our understanding that the Big Ten probably are not going to expand out west anytime soon. But that does not mean Commissioner Yormark or the Big 12 don't want to expand out west, which they surely do. Yormark has said so a couple months ago. But I think Kevin Warren laid out a pretty good way of doing it. With the Big 12 deal that we have now in place through 2031 has a pro rata deal in it with ESPN that they will cover, I believe it's up to 67% of whatever Power 5 schools that the Big 12 add. And there's no provisions of anything they'll cover for any group of 5. Well, this is where the Big 12 can get Amazon on board. Yormark can definitely pick up the phone, call up the people at Amazon and say, look, we know you're trying to get a deal done here, and it's not going well. ESPN found that it didn't go well when they tried to do it. So what did ESPN do? They called up the Big 12 and said, hey, let's start talking. We can't get anything done with the Pac-12. Let's talk to you. And they got it done within a month. And we know things haven't been going that well with the Pac-12 trying to get a TV deal done. And I don't know if y'all listen to the Monty show that's out there in Salt Lake City, Utah. Very entertaining guys, but they cover the Pac-12 way more than anything else. And they say they have people with inside information on what's going on and that a deal has been put on the table by Amazon for the Pac-12, which is basically $25 million per school for 7 years. And, that makes sense. That makes sense because I don't believe Amazon is going to drastically overpay for the Pac-12. And with 5 months into this thing, I'm sure Amazon has figured out a number that they would like and has put it on the table. So all of that is believable, even though I don't know it to be factual. But I'm also going to put that in play. Also reported by the Monty show is that one of the big holdups is Oregon and Washington and, surprising to me, Arizona and Arizona State don't want to sign a grant of rights in which Amazon has the vast majority of the Tier 1 rights. They're worried about exposure. And this is something that I have speculated about myself in previous videos. So, of course it's believable to me. Now, not so much the Arizona State, but definitely Oregon and Washington. So again, with me speculating out the ass, if I'm Commissioner Yormark, I do see a way that you could take advantage of this because you have jumped the line in front of the Pac-12 before. There's no reason you can't do it again. A very easy plan is, look, we're going to try to add Pac-12 schools. ESPN is putting up 67% of whatever we add in. Why don't you cover the other part of it? And that way, you can't show every game on Amazon, but you can show, you're going to pay for a third, so you can show a third. So out of 12 games, what does that give you? 3 games? Now, that's not a ton of inventory because you're talking, the Big 12 may only add, 4 schools? But this is where it can get interesting. What if you also say, look, you would like to be in Southern California? Those schools, the big schools have already gone. It's not an option anymore. But how about San Diego State? Get you into Southern California. How about SMU? 2 to 4 of those Mountain West schools that you can have full broadcast rights for. And, what would Amazon pay for that? Now, this is where you get into a little bit of trouble, especially with San Diego State, which has basically said, look, if we can't get a full share from the Pac-12, maybe we'll go to the Big 12. They're trying to leverage whatever leverage they think they have. But with Oregon and Washington wanting an uneven revenue split, there is no equal share to be had by San Diego State. So that's never going to be an option anyway. But could you get Amazon to pony up $25 million per school for the Mountain West schools so they can get that content as well as a third of any Pac-12 stuff? Keep in mind, this saves Amazon a lot of money and will get them enough content so that way they can get their Amazon sports stuff going. I understand all that is kind of a stretch, but it does make a little bit of sense. At least it does to me. For this to be viable, you have to ask, okay, how many schools is the Big 12 going to add if they can make this happen, if they can get Amazon on board? And I don't think it would take much for ESPN to be on board. Well, I think you would need to add at least 4 Pac-12 schools. That would give Amazon roughly 12 games that they can show of those schools going against other Big 12 opponents. And you would probably need to add something like 4 Mountain West schools. This gives you plenty of inventory. That way Amazon can get a foothold into college sports, which clearly they want. And I know that's kind of crazy. I mean, all of a sudden, the Big 12 goes to 20 teams. I mean, I don't like to, try to speculate some grandiose kind of bullshit, but Amazon would need inventory to get involved. All right, that they're not just going to be happy with just showing 12 games. They're just not. They're going to want a little bit more than that. And you may say, well, hold on. If you can get the Mountain West, which I think all the Mountain West schools would be cool with that, you have to talk to San Diego State quite a bit and try to make them understand that, look, you're not going to make more than $25 million out of the Pac-12. It's not going to be there for you. And I think with that understanding, they might say, okay, Big 12's good too. But I know what you're saying. Hold on. Amazon wants to pay $25 million per school for Pac-12 schools. Now, why would they pay $25 million a year for a group of 5 schools? Well, these would be former group of 5 schools. Let's say San Diego State, SMU, Boise State, maybe UNLV, maybe Fresno State. Whatever combination of those 4. Well, those 4 schools would now be Power 5 schools playing a Power 5 schedule, and you would have full broadcast rights of all of their games. So when they play Baylor, when they play Oklahoma State, when they play presumably Oregon, or if it's Colorado or whoever, they have full broadcast rights to show all of that. You fall into that is still a problem because now you're having to flip back and forth between live TV and then an Amazon app, which really sucks. But I think what Amazon wants to do in the future is they want to compete directly with YouTube TV. And I think this is why ESPN doesn't really see them as a competitor. They see them as a business partner. ESPN, Fox, NBC, CBS, all those networks, they make a lot of money by leasing out their broadcasting rights to things like Dish Network, DirecTV, YouTube TV, or Comcast, or Spectrum, or whatever. So it only makes logical sense that Amazon wants to be a player in that market. You already got Prime Video. You already have original programming there. But if you want to get into live TV, you want to get into live sports. That's where the money is at now. Imagine them creating a platform, all right, that works a lot like YouTube TV, where, yeah, you could watch HDTV and all that kind of stuff, but you get plenty of live sports. You'll be able to watch ESPN and Fox and CBS and NBC, but also have a separate Amazon Sports channel within that. That way you can get everything that's exclusively Amazon controlled. Like in this scenario, whatever chunk of the Big 12 that they are going to broadcast, you can just go to the Amazon TV network. It's like going from Fox to ESPN or ESPN to Amazon, all in the same category. So you just hit previous and go to Amazon Sports Channel. I think that's what they're working towards. It's just going to take a while. This is why they're willing to do a deal with the Pac-12. They can get in cheap, right? And then build up all their infrastructure to where they can compete with YouTube TV, start making a little money on that, and then later on they can actually do bigger, more expanded deals with the Big 12, with the Big 10, with the SEC. And no, not get all of their rights, but get a chunk of that to where that is exclusive on Amazon TV. And that way they can actually compete with YouTube TV. And eventually, I think what they, obviously, if you want to get into the space, you want to be the number one guy in this space. But to come back to just the present, what's going on now, the Big 12 trying to get Amazon on board to help them expand, I don't think that works unless you could talk Oregon and Washington into doing it. And right now, they're not wanting to sign a grant of rights with the Pac-12. And a lot of that has to do with Amazon, because you're talking the majority of their tier 1 being on Amazon. They have a severe problem with that. However, in this scenario, and one of the ways you might be able to get Oregon and Washington on board is like, look, 80% of your games, or 67 whatever percent of your games that ESPN is going to pay for, that's going to be shown on ESPN or on ABC. So that kind of ends your exposure problem. You may only have 3 games a year that actually get shown on whatever Amazon app. And you will come in with a full share of the Big 12 money. And that contract, that grant of rights that you would sign with the Big 12, it's up in 2031. The Big 10 likely are not going to expand anytime before their next TV contract is up. The Big 10 is up, 2030, I believe, a year before the Big 12. So if they want to invite you, they absolutely can, and you can go on board, and then your last season with the Big 12 will be 2031. Then you start with the Big 10, if that's how you want to do it. Because the clock is ticking, all right? This next season is the 2023 season. Next year, after that, the Pac-12 TV deal is up. So they got to figure something out. Oregon and Washington have to shit or get off the pot. And I know there's a lot of Pac-12 people say there's no way Oregon and Washington would ever go to the Big 12. Never say never. Because if they can't get what they want from the Pac-12, well, they do have an option. There's always that option of leaving. And with the Big 12, the money's right and the exposure is right. And there's no 100% guarantee that they'll be in the Big 10. I mean, if you ask me, I don't think they ever get into the Big 10. I just don't think they make enough money. I don't think they have the value to ever get into the Big 10. And if the Big 10 expands, they're going to expand with Notre Dame, or way later on, Florida State, maybe Clemson. And if they do expand, it may only be to 18 teams. All right, they don't really give two shits if it's 18, if it's 20. All right. They just want to be making $100 million on up per school. That's what the Big Ten wants. They want to keep that money going up. They don't want it coming down. And if there's one single ass hair of a chance that their money comes down, you're not coming into the conference. And so now moving forward, Oregon and Washington has a hard time convincing the Big Ten that they are worth $100 million and they can bring that value into the conference. However, they don't have to bring that kind of value to the Big 12. They would be more than additive coming into the Big 12, which means if that's never an option, if the Big 10 never take them and they go to the Big 12 in 2031, you can take that to ESPN, to Fox, and to Amazon and say, okay, we now have Oregon and Washington. Let's say we have Colorado and Arizona. Let's say you have SMU and San Diego State. Those are real viable markets. Those are real viable brands. And you can ask for a hell of a lot more money than you're getting now. It would not be SEC money. It would not be Big Ten money. They'd be getting the third highest amount of money for a conference. No doubt, no question. I just thought that was interesting. And is it a real possibility? Maybe. You never know. It's really quiet. The kids are back there playing with matches. Anyway, that's all I got on this crap. And I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.